Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Watford Way. Once again, you've been seeing my face lots lately, which I do apologise about. I know it's not a pretty sight. So much again to discuss today. It feels like the news cycle is never ending with Watford at the moment. We'll start with Luca Kyangard, which is, I believe, how you pronounce his name. It might be with a silent K. I did ask actually a Danish football account, and he said for an English pronunciation, what I said is totally fine. But yeah, I'm not sure my mouth can quite manage all the silent letters in his surname. So we'll stick with Luca Kyangard for now. We're then going to be discussing the quite astonishing and crazy bid that emerged today from, well, it firstly come actually from Africa Foot, which is an African football outlet. They've been wrong with Watford news before, so I initially decided not to report it. And then the Watford Observer, Adam Jury, fantastic work from him once again, come out and confirmed the offer was true. Burnley placing a £10 million bid for Mamadou Doumbia, our Malayan striker, and that has been rejected by Watford. And I'll give you my opinion on that in a moment as well, because goodness me, to turn down that much money, well, you could view that as a real statement of intent, or you could view that as, yeah, craziness, really. It's, yeah, a huge amount of money for Watford to turn down. So we'll touch on Mamadou Doumbia, and then we'll end with that man. You know who I'm talking about, Ashley Young, reported by TalkSport. Proposed deal to bring Ashley Young back to the club this summer. So, yeah, interesting stuff. So much to dive into. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Oliver is here as well. Glad to be back on a live video. How have you been, James? I'm good. I'm really good, Oliver, actually. My mood is ever increasing when I'm seeing the positive transfer news coming in. So, yeah, really good. Thank you. I hope you're well, Oliver. Force and Diallo taking it until August. Norwich have plenty of time to get it done. Go and check out some of my recent videos to the Papa Diallo information. We spoke to Anthony Joseph from Sky Sports. An exclusive interview is now out on the channel for your viewing pleasure. And we spoke about Diallo. We spoke again about our new Danish striker coming in today. The Nestori Irankunda deal as well. So go and check that, Oliver, for the information regarding Papa Diallo. Ryan is here as well. Good evening, James. How are you? Did you hear about our new signing? I certainly did, and we will be discussing that in just a moment, Ryan. Ian Crew, can't see it was 10 mil up front, probably too many add-ons at a later date. Jeffrey's here. Owen's here, one of our channel members, and Ellis is here as well. Right, let's dive into the first story. We won't touch on this for too long, but Watford have announced the signing of Luca Kyangard on a loan deal from Udinese, with essentially the option to make that permanent next year. I say an option, it's going to happen. Watford have to trigger the option to buy from Udinese. That is part of the deal for Luca Kyangard. Now, he's a Danish striker, 22 years old. He scored 22 goals in 29 appearances last season in the Danish second tier for Ordent Bold Club. He was he was voted the best player in that division, I believe, as well. And he said on the Watford website, I'm a box striker. I like to be in the box, competing with the defenders, and he likes to get physical with the centre backs as well. He's 6'4", which is absolutely massive. I mean, I like to say I'm 6 foot, maybe I'm 5'11", but yeah, 6'4" is pretty tall for any football player. So yeah, massive physical presence up front. He described himself as a target man. From what I've seen so far, he seems to be really good at creating spaces for his shots inside the box. He said his favourite player to watch was Victor Gyökeres from Sporting, of course. He's about to join Arsenal as well. So if he plays anything like Gyökeres from Sporting, I think we've got a big talent on our hands. So how do I feel about this deal? I think for me, I'm surprised we went back to the Danish league after what you could view as the failure of the Mileta Rajovic transfer. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a full-on failure, because ultimately we've doubled our money on Rajovic. He's gone to become a Polish record signing in that division for Legia Warsaw. So yeah, I am shocked we've gone back there, but clearly Watford are trusting their scouts here. And yeah, from what I've seen, the attributes he has, I think he's deceptively quick, given how tall he is as well. So yeah, interesting to see him come in kind of as our marquee statement signing. I spoke to Luca Bendoni actually on our live stream last night. I would urge you to go and watch that. We spoke to Luca in the first 10 or 15 minutes, and he said Watford were pursuing Luca Kyangard as their first choice kind of statement striker signing. Has always been viewed kind of as first on that striker list. So in summary, I'm surprised we've gone back to that league after Mileta Rajovic. And a fun fact as well, the Danish second division, and this confused me when I was doing my research, the Danish second division is called the first division. And then the actual first division, their equivalent to the Premier League, is called the Superliga. So yeah, quite confusing when doing research into Luca. But yeah, he was voted the best player in that second division last season. As I said, 22 goals in 29 appearances. I'm unsure if he took penalties for them. It'll be interesting to see actually who our penalty taker will be this season. I know Tom Deli-Bashiru, when he played last year, took up that responsibility. So maybe Kyangard is good at penalty taking. I'm not too sure on that one. I'll see if I can bring up some more quotes from him on the Watford website actually, because he was hyping himself up quite a bit actually, I have to say, when it comes to his game. He said we've been talking a lot for the last couple of weeks about lots of good stuff in relation to his move to Watford. He feels like this is the best fit and he hoped the deal could be closed quickly. They sold the club well, the project. They value the same things that he values. He wants to have a big role in the team and likes to take responsibility. He uses his strength to score goals. Big physique. He also says he's got a bit of speed as well, and he likes to work hard and do things without the ball too. And I think his off the ball work will be key for Paulo as well, because Paulo, requires his team to put in so much effort and work rate off the ball that if we have a striker, for example, like Rajovic, who doesn't maybe contribute as much, that would have a massive detriment to the team. So it seems like at the moment anyway, this is a perfect signing to fit Paulo Pezzolano's system. So yeah, interesting stuff. Really intrigued to see how this one pans out. Watford are due to play a pre-season friendly with Arsenal this weekend behind closed doors. So we'll have to see how many of our new signings feature. Maybe Kyangard will be one of them. One day, appreciate the message you sent me earlier on X, Greg. He says Papa Diallo will be an August signing once he's sat on the bench for Metz for 90 minutes. Yes, it does seem that way from the journalists I've spoken to, Anthony Joseph at Sky Sports, Luca Bendoni as well. The general suggestion is with Papa Diallo that he wants to join Watford, and that's why it's taken so long. And of course, for him to qualify via the GBE points threshold, I think it is, he does have to make an appearance this season, I should say, in a League One squad, whether that's starting or on the bench, and that will allow him to join Watford when that point threshold has been reached. So quite complex. I don't think I've seen anything like this in football before. Of course, I'm sure it happens on a daily basis when it comes to transfers, but I think with Papa Diallo, it's very much a waiting game, and hopefully if Watford again want to show a huge statement of intent, they can go and get that man, early to mid-August and even strengthen that attack even further. Oliver says, is it crazy to think we almost have too much depth? I'm not sure about that, Oliver. Call me crazy, but it might be getting to that point. I certainly think we're stacked, especially in them wide areas. Now, you look at Kwadwo Bar, Uthman Mamar, Nestori Iran Kunda, Rocco Vata, Georgie Shatfatatse. I mean, them wide areas for Watford are really, you would argue they're promotion quality. I know we've not seen some of these players kick a ball for the Hornets yet, but the ambition has been outlined early on by Gino, and ultimately, regardless of what you think about him, he is backing up his ambition this transfer window, and I think as fans, that is all we can ask. So really positive stuff so far. Owen says, what is our wage bill this season? We won't know that until the next accounts, Owen. So if you look at kind of next summer, 2026, that will give us a general idea about our wage bill for this season. But I know the last time Scott Duxbury spoke about that, I think he said we were one of the lowest teams, if not the lowest team in the league when it comes to wage expenditure week in, week out, which I think is a positive sign. And you don't want players to be on crazy money and then some people to be on no money at all, because in terms of player happiness and general morale around the squad, if you've got players earning vastly different salaries for relatively similar abilities, that can cause unrest, of course. So yeah, the general consensus is our wage bill is one of the lowest in the division, or at least it was the last time we heard Scott Duxbury speak. Ted is here as well. Ian Crete on the penalties says not worried about who takes the pens as long as they score. Absolutely, I totally agree with you there. Right, let's move on to the next story. And this, come as a shock to me, actually. I mentioned at the start of this stream today that the first reports come out via an outlet called Africa Foot last night, and they've been wrong on some Watford stories before. I think they reported Kwadwo Bar was going to join Crystal Palace. They said Tom Delly had signed a contract extension when he hadn't. But it seemed like they were right on this one, and the Watford Observer with Adam Jury today clarifying some more details on this as well, and that is that Mamadou Doumbia has been subject to a £10 million bid. Let me repeat that for you one more time. A £10 million bid from Premier League Burnley, and Watford have outright rejected that offer. And Adam from the Watford Observer has also reported, in addition to that, that Watford are preparing to offer Mamadou Doumbia a improved contract to reflect his progress he made last season. So I think firstly, let's address the elephant in the room here, the £10 million bid. I'm going to put everything at face value here for starters, and then we can play devil's advocate. I think that's a good game to play. So when you look at everything at face value, Watford signed Mamadou Doumbia for under £1 million, I believe, from the Malayan League. So an unknown quantity, if you will. And he come to England and probably played more than he expected, especially towards the end of last season. He scored 2 goals in total, but I think for me, his actual performances, aside from the goals, really showed the potential he has. So if we look at everything on face value, and I'll get up actually his minutes played here on Transfermarkt, 22 appearances in total for Watford, 19 in the Championship, 2 goals scored, 972 league minutes played. So that equates to about 10 or 11 full league games. He wants to spread his minutes out over that kind of quantity, if you will. So he's played 10 or 11 full league matches for Watford according to his minutes. He's scored 2 goals, 19 apps. Now, £10 million for what could arguably be our backup striker this season. For me, that's either a real, statement of intent to the fans to say, from Gino, to say, look, I'm serious this season. We're going for promotion. Or, again, you can almost view it as delusion, because as I said, we've signed today. Of course, the club announced Luca Kyangard as kind of our big statement striker signing. And if he starts bagging goals, Mamadou Doumbia might have a reduced role to play this season, and Watford could have cashed in for £10 million. Now, where I think the issue lies from Watford's perspective is that because they've been so open and vocal about retaining our key players, the likes of Imran Louza, Georgie Shakpatatse and Kwadwo Bar, if they're able to reject £10 million from Mamadou Doumbia, for me as a fan, I now can't envision Louza, Georgie or Bar leaving. For me personally anyway, because if we can afford as a club now to reject a £10 million offer, surely we can afford to reject, I don't know, a £12 million bid for Kwadwo Bar, a £10 million offer for Imran Louza. That suggests to me our financial situation currently enables us to do that. So interesting. as I said, I was really surprised to read this has actually taken place. I mean, what I would say is, for Burnley to bid that much for a 19-year-old shows Watford are doing something right. I think what we've always done right under the Pozzos, regardless of your critique, is signing these young players, Espria, Richarlison, Joao Pedro. We've seen Joao Pedro fly, of course, in the last week or so at the Club World Cup, and Doumbia and Vata, Georgie. These are all players next on kind of that conveyor belt, really. So, yeah, in conclusion, shocked we've rejected that amount. Pleasantly surprised, of course. If Burnley come back in again and place, I don't know, a 12, 13, 15 million pound bid, for me, I would urge Watford to accept that, because if we receive 12, 13 million for Mamadou Doumbia, that should theoretically allow you to go and get someone like a Richard Kone, who is one of the highest rated prospects in English football right now, especially in the lower leagues. So, yeah, would you, if I'm to give you an ultimatum, would you rather keep Mamadou Doumbia and reject £10 million, or accept £10 million and try to sign Richard Kone? I think I would edge towards that latter option. So it's tough. I mean, Mama's got so much potential, so I'm interested to see how he does next season. But yeah, one to monitor, and we'll have to see if Burnley put in a new offer for Doumbia. Ben says, how confident are we on the truth of this rumour? The Burnley Express are saying it isn't true. Well, I initially thought it wasn't true, Ben, when Africa Foot, that original outlet, reported it. But to see now Adam from the Watford Observer corroborate that story and add more detail suggests to me the club have probably given him a hint or some information that this deal or that offer actually took place. So what I would say, Ben, is trust our local outlet, the Watford Observer. They receive information, of course, from the club and other sources. So in terms of how confident I am in the truth, I would say I'm very confident, because the Watford Observer kind of corroborated the truth of that story. So yeah, interesting stuff there. Greg says 10 million I'd be really tempted to take. They must think he has a high ceiling. That seems to be the general messaging coming from the club. They seem to rate him really highly. I think in 1 or 2 years' time, he could maybe even leave Watford and go on to, a Premier League club, a foreign club, and playing in kind of the top leagues, really. So yeah, as you say, Greg, they must rate Mamadou Doumbia really highly. Melanie, one of our channel members, thank you for your support, Melanie. She says keep Doumbia, definitely. So some contrasting views in the live chat. I think for me, what I would say is I love Mama. I'd love him to stay. But if the offer comes back in and it's increased to 13, 14 million, if I'm Watford, I think that's an exceptional deal to do. And I think you have to say, you know what, we've done a good job here. Let's move him on and try and pursue another striker. Because if this window is anything to go by, our scouting department right now are on top form. And I'd trust them to go and get a replacement for Doumbia. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that deal. But yeah, again, one to keep an eye on. This is probably the most exciting, well, for the older generation anyway. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, that's when Ashley Young was at Watford. And as you know, that's what I'm going to be talking about now. Ashley Young is apparently in talks with Watford to rejoin the club. He's, of course, probably, you would argue, our most famous or most successful academy graduate in recent years. And the Watford Observer reporting the proposed deal to bring Ashley Young back to Watford is currently rated no more likely than 50-50 to take place. National reports linked Young with a homecoming earlier today. That was TalkSport, Alex Crook, who originally broke that story, and discussions have indeed taken place all summer between the Hornets and the former player. The Watford Observer go on to say Young, who is currently a free agent after leaving Everton, would love to return to his boyhood club if the right agreement could be found. But the move currently is far from advanced. He's gone on to staff the likes of Aston Villa, Manchester United, Inter Milan, and has 39 caps for his country as well. I think my most important takeaway from this article was that it says Watford will only sign the former England international if head coach Paolo Pezzolano would like to work with him. And Ashley Young clearly is a fan's favourite. I think we'd all like to see him return. This is the last hurrah, really, for this deal because he's been touted to Watford nearly every year since he reached his mid to late 30s. I believe back in 2020 or 2021 when he was leaving Aston Villa. He said he'd love to return to Watford. I think he said he'd return to Watford in a heartbeat, and then he signed for a different club. So Ashley Young, as a Watford fan myself, I didn't really get to watch him too much because I was too young at the time. I think I was about 5 or 6. So whilst I was going to games and being taken, I can't remember really anything about Ashley Young's early career at Watford. So for me personally, I'd love to see Ashley Young return because now I'm a fully grown adult and I can experience him in the flesh, and fans of an older ilk, I'm sure, would welcome that as well. I think my only concern is his age, but a lot of people have said, he's very fit. He's one of the fittest. Well, he was one of the fittest players at Everton, apparently, as well. He can play in a wide variety of positions, right back, left back, even on the wings if you need him to as well. And also, I think the biggest thing you're getting with Ashley Young is ultimately the calibre of player he is and the experience he has in world football. He's played across numerous countries. He's played for England at major tournaments. He's played for the biggest managers in world football as well. And for him to come in and to nurture them young players could be a real coup by Watford. And I think the strategy we've seen so far this window is definitely to go for youth and a youthful approach in our recruitment process. I think the average age of all our players across the front line is something like 20 or 21, which, is astonishing to me. But I think with the demands of how Paolo wants to play, there is going to be heavy rotation in there. And for Ashley Young to potentially join and be a cool, calm head in that environment, as I said, could be a real positive. So the question I'm going to ask myself now is, would I like this deal to happen? And now having spoke to you about it, I would probably say yes. What I don't want to happen though, and what I'm concerned about, is that the Caleb Wiley deal is still very much delayed. So I hope Watford aren't delaying that deal to then try and bring in Ashley Young instead of Wiley. Just speculating there, of course. I believe the Wiley deal is done and dusted, but I just don't know why it's not been announced. So would I like Young to come back? Yes. Would he really have a major first team role? Probably not. I've seen a few people suggest he could be our first choice right back ahead of maybe Ryan Andrews or Jeremy Ngakia, which I think is an interesting scenario to pose. I don't know. It's a hard one for me. As I said, I think if given the option, I probably would bring Youngie back just for the pure vibes. And of course, as I said, the calibre the guy's got, the experience he has at all levels of football as well is really something to note. So would I bring him back? Absolutely. To repeat once again what I said earlier, the Watford Observer rating the likelihood of this happening at 50-50 at the moment, which in terms of odds are not bad odds at all. So get your bets placed. I'm joking, of course. I can't promote gambling on here, but I'm waffling now. But an interesting deal. Snugs TCG says, I don't mind if Young comes back or not, but I really hope Doumbia stays. He doesn't stop pressing. It's great. Yeah, that's a good thing to note about Mama, actually. He won us 2 or 3 penalties last season just due to his pressing alone. I remember Luton at home, Thomas Kaminski tackled Doumbia because he was running so incessantly towards the ball, and he won Watford a penalty there. I think, was it the Middlesbrough game as well? He won Watford a penalty in too. So yeah, I think his pressing certainly would impress Paolo. I do just think, are his minutes going to be restricted due to Vivaldo Semedo, who we've not even mentioned on the stream yet, and of course Lucas Kyangard coming into the club today. So yeah, my concern with Doumbia is we've turned down a huge amount of money for him to potentially not play a lot of football. But as I said, with how Paolo appears to want to set up, there's probably going to be a lot of rotation in them positions as well. And of course, in the Championship, you guys know if you attend games yourself, the amount of midweek fixtures we have to take ourselves to at Vicarage Road and away from home can get very tiring at times. And I'm sure it tires the players out as well. As much as they're on high salaries, they are humans, and I'm sure it does take a toll on them. So I think rotation is going to be massive for us this season. I think that's why we've recruited like we have, a youthful approach, adding depth in positions we need to. I think the only area of concern for me is probably centre-back. I think if Porteous and Tikvich leave, which is looking likely, we've really only got Matty Pollock, Kevin Caben and James Abankwah in them positions. So yeah, that's the only area of concern for me. We've been linked with this Dutch defender as well from Volendam, a 23-year-old right-footed Dutch defender, Xavier Mbaimba. But yeah, a new left-footed defender, someone of like Wesley Hootsilk, for example, I think would go down really nicely. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Ashley Young and the rest of the Watford transfer window. Oliver says, bring Messina back for the vibes. Oh, Oliver, I'll never forget Adam Messina's free kick away at Cardiff in lockdown. Yeah, everyone at home supporting Watford that day, I'm sure, were having pure limbs in their living rooms. What a day that was. Great free kick. I say it was a great free kick, actually. If you go and watch that back, the goalkeeper for Cardiff, who I can't actually remember, but whoever it was in goal, yeah, they didn't do particularly great. I think it curled into the near post actually from Adam Messina. So yeah, a massive free kick at the time, of course, in our charge for promotion. But yeah, the goalkeeper certainly didn't do himself any favours there. Right, we'll wrap up there actually. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. I'm not really going to give you any schedule for when these live streams happen. I'll just go live whenever there's enough Watford news to talk about. And as I said, the past 24, 48 hours have been quite astonishing and shocking actually as a Watford fan, and it's really refreshing to see finally some ambition from our owner as well. So I appreciate you all tuning in. We'll read this last comment from Snugs. He says it's really nice to see the club actually rebuild and put some money into the squad. It feels like forever since we last did this. Absolutely. Ian says, see you tomorrow, something's bound to happen. I can't promise anything. I'll be here whenever some massive news breaks. But yeah, lots to look forward to this week. We've got Nestri Irankunda to be announced as well. If you guys go onto social media, you'll be able to see an interview he did at the airport with Sky Sports talking about his transfer and how excited he is to be joining Watford. That is that is the statement signing of the window. You could argue Kipriani was massive. You could argue Luca Kyangard today was a big signing, but Nestri Irankunda, a 19-year-old, 5-capped Australian international, one of the most highly rated young players in world football, is joining Watford on a permanent transfer. For me, when you look at the Premier League and the Championship, is that the best value deal any team has done? £2.5 million. So keep an eye out for that announcement. Caleb Wiley has to be announced at some point as well. So I'm sure, hopefully, that will happen at some point this week. And the away kit is due out on Friday. I've been told the colour. I've not seen the design as yet, so I'm not going to ruin that for you. But yeah, the away kit due out on Friday. And I would highly recommend you go and listen to From the Rookery End. They did a great podcast with the head of commercial at Watford, Kevin Newman, talking about Kelme and the work that goes into producing all our kits year in, year out. So I'd recommend you go and give that a listen if you're craving some more Watford content this evening. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your support. Don't forget to subscribe to The Watford Way and go and check out our exclusive interview with Anthony Joseph. That is on the channel for your viewing pleasure now. You can find us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and here on YouTube. And that is it for today. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.